Welcome to Unit 2, where we're going to be talking about ancient or early Asian civilizations. Our first read aloud we're going to be talking about is the Indus River Valley, Part 1. So, we're going to be taking our time and we're going to be looking at people who lived a long time ago, and we're going to be talking about the different parts of these early civilizations or how these people lived a long time ago. And it's important to learn about how these people lived because, man, a lot of the things that these people did way back in the day, we're still doing some of those things thanks to them. Or we took what they were doing and we made it maybe a little bit easier or more efficient or better. So it's important to learn about where these people, what these people were doing and how they were living, and so we can have a better understanding of the people around us. In this unit, we have some key terms that I'm always going to be talking about. So this is very important to know what these terms mean. So first, we have this word ancient. Everyone, repeat that word with me: ancient. Ancient, remember, means very old. Don't say your teacher is ancient because I don't know if that would make them happy or not. But ancient means very old. And then you're going to have this other word with a soft C at the beginning, says civilization. Repeat that word: civilization. A civilization is a group of people who live together and that have developed many things, such as cities, farming, jobs, leaders, a writing system, or a religion. So if ancient means very old, and a civilization is a group of people that have been living together, that have developed many things, what do you think an ancient civilization is? So remember, the key, what we're going to be talking about a lot during our lessons, is the key to a civilization is that they have cities, they have jobs, leaders, writing, and religion. So an important job in many ancient cities was farming. Cities often formed around large rivers so that people could farm. The ancient Egyptian civilization in Africa were along the Nile River. This is an image of that civilization. So, wait, why would civilizations want to live by water? So, in this picture, which two components? Remember, when I talk about components, I mean cities, jobs, leaders, writing, religion. Which two are in this picture? So we see this is where a city would be, but also what jobs they have too. So there's two components in this picture. One of the first civilizations was called Mesopotamia. It developed in the area now known as the Middle East. This is a map showing the area in which Mesopotamia civilization developed between the Tigris and Euphrates River. So again, they would want to form between rivers or right by rivers because it's just an important way of life and it's easier to travel around things, and it's a lot of times that's where they can grow things as well. All ancient civilizations have large cities with a form of government or leaders. The Incan civilization, an early American civilization, had a city known as Machu Picchu. This is what Machu Picchu looks like today. And you can see there's still little ruins of where people lived a long time ago. And the cool thing about this city is that look at all these cool little engineering things that the people way back in the day did. They didn't have any power tools to cut this. They would cut this rock using other rocks and other handmade tools by hand, and it's just such a cool thing to see what they did. And as well as Machu Picchu, they were really good farmers as well, and we use some of their farming techniques today. Early civilizations such as the Maya, Aztec, Inca, Egyptian, and Mesopotamian civilizations all had religion. In all of these civilizations, the people believed in many gods and goddesses. Civilizations also had a system of writing. This is an image of the hieroglyphics used by the people of ancient Egypt. They would draw pictures using, they would draw these little symbols, and each symbol meant a word. This is an example of writing from Mesopotamia, known as cuneiform. So theirs would be different triangles and slashes. So during this unit, we will be learning facts about two different ancient civilizations over in Asia. We're going to be learning about the ancient civilizations in India and the ancient civilizations in China. You will be learning about what life was like so long ago. You will also be hearing about inventions that are still used today. So if you were reading a story and you were learning facts, what would be the genre then? So if you're learning facts, true things about a civilization, what type of genre would we be talking about? That's right. We're going to be talking about nonfiction stories because nonfiction means not fake. So here's the map of all the world, and so we're going to be talking about a little place right over here to start off. Here's the two civilizations we'll be talking about. Here's the ones in ancient India that we'll be talking about, and then we're also going to be talking about the ancient Chinese civilizations. So as we zoom into ancient India, we're going to be learning about the people that lived right along the Indus River. So the Indus River started right on over here and came on its way and wrapped around. So here's the Indus River, and we're going to be talking about the people that started a civilization right along this river. Remember, that's important. The early ancient people, they lived right along rivers. We're also going to be talking about, again, the ancient Chinese, and they lived. There's two rivers right here, the Yellow and the Yangtze River, and they built their civilization around these rivers. So we're going to be talking about, we can see the the people from India over here, and then we can see the Chinese right here. In today's Read Aloud, after you read this story today, you should be able to explain the importance of how geography formed ancient civilizations, and also show an understanding of the word fertile. So I'll repeat the first one. Explain the importance of how geography, or how the earth or the land, formed ancient civilizations, and showing an understanding to the word fertile. So listen carefully today to find out where these civilizations developed and why would they develop there. So here we go. Our first story, our first read aloud on nonfiction read aloud about the Indus River Valley. These snow-covered peaks are part of the Himalayas, a mountain range that stretches for miles across Asia, forming the highest mountain peaks in the world. Can you guess what happens to the snow on these peaks as it melts? What do you think happens when this snow melts? Yeah, it turns into water. The snow turns into water and travels down the mountainside, and it ends up forming rivers in the valley below. There's so much snow up there that when it starts melting, it's starting to form these rivers. Water from the melting snows of the Himalayas combines with heavy spring rains, which fills the rivers and causes them to overflow their banks. Fertile soil, or soil that is good for growing food, from the river's bed spreads out over the nearby fields. As the water floods the valleys, it leaves behind the nutrient-rich soil, or the fertile soil, perfect for growing crops or plants. Let's think about this process, and maybe if you want, you can act it out. We are going to pretend to be the snow-covered peaks of the Himalayas. Let's all stand tall with our hands above our heads, touching our fingertips like the tips of the tops of the Himalayas. Now, let's be melting snow. Our hands are melting snow, rushing into the river. Everyone, move your hands down towards the floor and make a whooshing sound to represent the melting snow. The water flowing over the banks and the fertile soil left on the land around the river. Great civilizations all around the world have sprung up in river valleys. Taking advantage of the rich, fertile soil in these valleys, people learned to grow their own crops. Because of this, people began to stay in one place instead of constantly moving in search of food. What does that word fertile mean again? We keep hearing fertile soil. What does it mean when it's fertile soil? Beneath the Himalayas, beneath the Himalayan mountains in Asia, along the banks of the mighty Indus River, one such civilization was born. Every year, snow from the Himalayas melts. The water from the melting snow, mixed with the heavy spring rains, floods the Indus River, leaving rich soil on the land around the river. More than 4,000 years ago, people spread out across the Indus River Valley. Taking advantage of the rich soil or the fertile soil, they settled near the river and began to cultivate wheat and barley, peas, dates, melons, and bananas. So, why were these people able to cultivate or to grow all of these different plants and crops? Why were they able to do that? These people knew what these people knew that if they wanted to live near the river, they would have to control the floodwaters. They developed ways to control the rising water by building irrigation canals to hold some of the water back and to release some of the water into the fields when they needed it. As their community grows, these people work together to plan and build permanent cities by the river. So, an irrigation canal is a little ditch that's dug around right by the river so it can direct water where they need it. I feel like that's a pretty smart way to do it. What would happen if they did not direct the flood water? Yeah, if they decided just to let it flood, it'd probably ruin their crops. But now, as it floods, it'll go through the little ditches over here and it will help grow. So this one was helping this field here and this field here, and this one's helping it. And you can see, I love this little picture. They put these little wood things in front so they can control it. So if there's too much water in this area, they'll just close that off and it'll go through the river. If they need more, they'll lift it up and more water will flow right into there. Perfect. Wow, such smart people. There were many permanent cities by the Indus River. Not so very long ago, archaeologists uncovered Mohenjo-Daro, one of the most thriving cities in the ancient Indus River Valley. A city enclosed by brick walls. Mohenjo-Daro was designed in a square grid-like pattern. The citadel or fortress at the city's center housed its leaders, its priests, who were members of the ruling class that performed both religious and governmental duties. Beyond the citadel, spreading out in all directions of the city, a web of roads led to the homes of countless workers. Everyone had a job to do. Some farmed the land outside the city walls, some made bricks from the river's muddy soil, and others fashioned these baked bricks into buildings. So remember those five key components we talked about before this read aloud? What key components of a civilization did the this river valley have, this city? So again, it had a city, remember, Mohenjo-Daro. We heard about religion, we heard about jobs. There's another job other than farming. What was that job? Other people in the Indus River Valley had other jobs. For example, fine craftsmen designed jewelry and distinctive stone seals carved with pictures of buffalo, elephants, and tigers, a form of writing. Archaeologists uncovered many of these stone seals, but they are not sure of the purpose of these seals. And all over the city, merchants brought and sold their wares or goods or things that they can sell, like pottery, jewelry, or bread. The city's wide streets, lined with flat topped brick buildings, were easy for their common built carts to navigate. The city of Mohenjo-Daro was part of the Indus River Valley civilization. We say that certain groups have a civilization when they have cities with large buildings, jobs, and a form of writing, to name a few things. The city of Mohenjo-Daro had all of these things. In the next lesson, you'll hear what it might have been like to live in the city of Mohenjo-Daro, a part of the Indus River Valley civilization. So what an interesting group of people we're starting to learn about, and how they did some very smart things so their civilization can continue living. How did the Himalayan mountains contribute to the formation of the Indus River Valley? Or how did the mountains help create those rivers? What did it do? So there's two parts. First, the Himalayan mountains starts the river because the snow's melting and it's rushing down and it starts forming these rivers. The second thing it helps do is, remember, during the spring, all this rain is starting to fall and the rivers flood and create fertile soil. So there's two parts it helps. One is it helps create the river, and the second, it helps the river floods and makes this fertile soil, which is good for growing. Why would ancient civilizations build so close to a river, especially a river that's flooding? And so this leads to our next question too. Why did they dig irrigation canals? Would it be hard to live in a civilization like that? And sometimes I think about that in our everyday, and sometimes that will be hard. Our word today, we heard it a lot in our read aloud. It's that word fertile. Repeat that word with me. Fertile. What sound is the ER making in this word? How is this a tricky word? For me, I know this is a tricky word because when I see an I with a consonant and an E, that's telling me this I should be saying its name. It should be fertile, but it's saying fertile. So this is a tricky word because it's not, the I is kind of silent, making an O sound at the end. What do you think this word fertile means? So fertile means rich in materials or nutrients needed to produce strong, healthy plants, or it's the materials needed that help it grow. After the Nile River floods, fertile soil can be found around the banks or the sides of the river. Can you describe what fertile ground might look like? What would not fertile soil look like, or not fertile ground? When I think of a not fertile ground, I think of ground that's maybe really rock hard, that roots can't really grow into. But fertile soil is kind of softer. It might be a better quality dirt. It's not like sand though, because sand you can't really grow things in either. To end our time, we're going to go through our map southwest. So we're going to look at a map. Remember, right over here is where Mohenjo-Daro and what we learned about. So what we're going to do is I'm going to first draw a little dot to show right here is where Mohenjo-Daro is. Now, remember, we talked about cities, and what do these cities need to be built by or close to? They need to be close to a river. So which one of these is the river? Would it be this dark line or this line, or do you think it's going to be this little dotted line that goes and stops in the mountains? It would be this line. So this line would be what river? That's right. This would be the Indus River because that's what we've been learning about. And then we'll use yellow here to represent our mountains. Remember these mountains right here. What are these mountains called again? Yeah, that's our Himalayan mountains. So the river begins at the Himalayan mountains and goes down, 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 right into the ocean. This would be the ocean. So this red dot would be our Mohenjo-Daro. That's where our city is, right by the river, right by the Indus River, into the Himalayan mountains. Again, our next read aloud, we're going to learn more about what would have been like to live in Mohenjo-Daro a long time ago. We're going to be going through a little story about a kid your age who's going to live a day in the city of Mohenjo-Daro. And we'll be looking at how it's maybe similar to our life or different from our life. I hope you enjoyed our first read aloud in the ancient Asian civilizations.